But observe the critical variable. 30% of the world's seaborne oil traverses this narrow passage, a primary choke point, a singular point of systemic vulnerability. The United States Navy projects overwhelming force into this region: carrier strike groups, destroyer squadrons, submarine patrols, a layered defense. Nevertheless, Iran, with its comparatively modest naval assets, consistently claims it possesses the capability to close this vital artery. This constitutes the operational paradox. How does a nation without traditional naval supremacy achieve effective maritime denial against a global superpower? Such questions challenge a core assumption of naval power projection. Conventional calculus suggests impossibility. We must examine the unseen variables, the true equations. Traditional naval power metrics prove misleading in this context. We tally tonnage, we inventory missiles, we benchmark fifth-generation aircraft. This scenario does not involve a fleet-on-fleet engagement. It avoids sinking capital ships in open water. Such an assumption represents a fundamental miscalculation. The primary objective is disruption, not the outright destruction of the U.S. Navy. The true measure is not kinetic victory. It is systemic economic paralysis, a single disabled tanker, a persistent, credible threat. That is sufficient. Insurance premiums surge. Global markets experience volatility. The strategic equation shifts from direct combat to financial pressure. Consider the brutal arithmetic. The expense of a damaged hull is borne by the global consumer, not the aggressor. This transfers the burden. The adversary avoids the direct financial consequence. The global supply chain absorbs the shock. These facts reveal a critical vulnerability in our current defensive architecture. We optimize for kinetic defense, not economic resilience. The Strait of Hormuz is not open ocean. It functions as a constricted maritime choke point, at its narrowest, a mere 21 miles separate landmasses. Navigable shipping lanes further compress this space into two distinct 2-mile-wide corridors for inbound and outbound traffic. This configuration creates a literal funnel. The operational environment is also densely populated. Hundreds of civilian cargo ships, fishing vessels, offshore oil platforms. Such surroundings create a canvas of operational opacity, offering natural camouflage for hostile intent. Iran's doctrine avoids a decisive kinetic engagement. Their objective is to impose unacceptable costs while generating persistent systemic uncertainty. They perceive the strait as an integrated defensive system. Their approach is multi-layered, a complex equation of low-cost, high-impact variables. Fast attack craft swarm. Shore-based anti-ship missiles establish kill zones. Submarines introduce unseen threats. Mines transform transit into a probability calculation. Each element serves as a multiplier in their denial equation, designed to disrupt the flow, not necessarily to destroy the fleet. The investment required by the adversary is minimal. The potential economic impact globally is catastrophic. Such a disproportionate cost-benefit ratio remains their primary weapon. A U.S. carrier strike group projects immense power. Yet it acts as a blunt instrument for a precise problem. Launching an F-35 to neutralize a fast-moving skiff represents a tactical mismatch. The cost-per-kill ratio becomes absurd. We do not engage emotion. We calculate efficiency. A single airframe sortie, millions. The target, thousands. Such arithmetic is not sustainable. Destroyers, designed for blue water engagements, carry missile systems optimized for high-value targets. They lack the design for dispersed, low-signature threats. Their sensor suites struggle with clutter. Their ordnance is overkill, excessive expenditure. Clearing mines in a high-threat, high-traffic waterway is inherently slow. It demands specialized assets. It consumes time. Time the global economy cannot afford. The perceived strength of our naval presence is an optical illusion. That figure remains misleading. Standard solutions are too expensive, too slow to deploy, or simply ill-suited for the specific constraints of this geography and threat profile. They fail the efficiency test. They miss the speed requirement. They ignore the cost-benefit analysis. The conventional playbook offers no viable calculus here. Effective maritime denial often relies on basic principles. The most underestimated instrument, the naval mine. Iran possesses thousands of these. They are inexpensive. Deployment is simple, often from civilian vessels. Detection proves difficult, especially within shallow, complex littoral zones where signatures blend with environmental noise. A single mine strike rarely sinks a supertanker. It disables it. It establishes a hazard. It effectively closes critical transit lanes for days, even weeks. Consider the brutal arithmetic. The cost of a single mine might be tens of thousands. The economic disruption from a closed strait, billions per day. The metric is area denial per dollar. This represents a profound asymmetry in operational calculus. This capability is compounded by swarms of fast attack craft. These small, agile vessels operate in concert, carrying rockets and anti-ship missiles. By utilizing sheer numbers and speed, they overwhelm defensive layers. Such tactics generate tactical disorder. Their objective avoids direct annihilation, focusing instead on compelling a response. The goal remains to saturate sensor arrays, duet with contacts, and induce decision paralysis for the defender. Iran's operational doctrine follows a structured cascade, a three-layer disruption model. The first layer prioritizes detection. This involves a fused network of coastal radar installations, persistent drone surveillance, and human intelligence assets. Their purpose is unambiguous: to acquire and maintain tracks on all significant maritime traffic, especially U.S. naval movements within the Persian Gulf and Strait of Hormuz. Every vessel goes unobserved. Every signature goes uncatalogued. The second layer implements deterrence through calculated displays of force. Regular missile tests, extensive naval exercises, and assertive public declarations project a credible threat. The intent shapes perception, establishing the prohibitive cost of intervention. It convinces an adversary that the entry price remains too high. The final layer is active disruption. This involves the strategic deployment of naval mines, the coordinated launch of fast attack craft in swarm formations, and the engagement range of shore-based anti-ship missile batteries. The objective here is not necessarily outright victory, it is to impose closure. These measures render critical waterways impassable and create zones of unacceptable risk. The critical calculation ignores the U.S. Navy's overwhelming firepower, focusing instead on the duration required to neutralize these disruptions. The aggregate financial burden incurred by global commerce during that period of operational paralysis fundamentally alters the strategic equation. The fundamental question posed at the outset was precise. How does a nation lacking conventional naval superiority impose maritime denial? The answer is not found in parity of force. It resides in the strategic deployment of asymmetric leverage. Iran's objective eschews the annihilation of the United States Navy. Their goal is simpler, yet profoundly disruptive: to render the cost of transit through critical choke points economically unbearable. They seek to impede the uninterrupted flow of global energy supplies, intending to instill a pervasive, systemic uncertainty within the maritime insurance markets and the broader global economy. Here's the brutal arithmetic for sustained closure. The perceived economic burden of disruption must unequivocally surpass the political and military cost of an overwhelming U.S. intervention. Additionally, the estimated time required to neutralize these layered threats must exceed the time frame within which global economic impact becomes catastrophic. The Strait of Hormuz, therefore, functions as more than a mere geographic feature. It represents a complex intersection of physical topology, global economic reliance, and an adversary's calculated asymmetric intent. We do not worship the machine, we prioritize the equation.